Welcome to the show. Glad to have you with us here today. Hope you're having a good one. Another very fall-like day outside today in and around South Bend, Mishawaka, Granger, Elkhart, wherever you happen to be. Vince, how are you today?
I am about as good as you can get because we are on the eve of fall break, baby.
Yes.
So get a couple of extra days off for the weekend. So no complaints here. It's a bye weekend for Notre Dame.
Yep.
Parents weekend up at Hillsdale. So it should be a nice, relaxing weekend, which I'm really looking forward to.
All kinds of stuff going on.
Yes. The honeydew list, of course, is very long.
Growing. That's right. That's absolutely right. Before we get started here today, and we've got a lot going on in today's show, we won't have a show tomorrow because there's Notre Dame men's basketball. They host DePaul, an exhibition play tomorrow. The game tips off at 6 o'clock Eastern time, and the pregame starts at 5:30 Eastern right here on Sports Radio WSBT and the Notre Dame Radio Network. Of course, you can always hear it streaming around the nation on the Odyssey app, AUDACY. So no Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat tomorrow. It's kind of our bye week tomorrow as we get we take a day off because things are really going to start ramping back up. Stretch drive of the Notre Dame football season, of course, and I'll start having Notre Dame women's basketball games next week, exhibition game 1 week from today. And speaking of Notre Dame women's basketball, Fighting Irish head coach Niele Ivey will join me coming up here in just a few minutes in the second segment of the show. So that will be coming up, the interview with Niele Ivey. We're going to start off with some football conversation, though. Vince, all the talk about the future of the series with USC and everything else that comes with it. After last Saturday's win over the Trojans, Marcus Freeman was asked if that was his most satisfying win as the head coach at Notre Dame. And here's his response.
But I don't say it because of that. I just say it because it's this one, you know. You got to be grateful for these things because if you're not, man, this is the reward of a lot of hard work. And then tomorrow, this reward goes away. Right now, it's 11:32, right? And then the minute we wake up in the morning, our mind starts going to the next thing. And so if you don't enjoy this team glory, that's what I call it, then it's a miserable existence being a football player or a coach. And so we have to make sure we enjoy it. And yes, because it's a huge game, a great opponent, a rivalry, but also because, you know what, we put a lot of work into achieving this result.
So Marcus Freeman didn't want to go there. He didn't want to give it labels, didn't want to necessarily say what his most satisfying win as head coach at Notre Dame is. What do you think would be the most satisfying? You know, maybe it doesn't have to be Marcus Freeman's perspective. Maybe it can be, you know, just bigger picture, whatever our perspective is. What do you think, Vince?
Well, I think, you know, personally, probably his first win as a head coach was probably a big deal. You know, that's probably very satisfying.
Yeah.
And that was delayed for a few games, obviously, with kind of what's
talk about delayed gratification.
Yeah. So that was probably very satisfying to get that one out of the way. But, you know, if you're looking at games that have the most, you know, oomph to them, for lack of a better word, it's got to either be Georgia or Penn State. I mean, those have to be the playoff. Georgia probably over Penn State because, you know, it's the SEC. Georgia has much more success as of late with national championships, and it's still Kirby Smart. It's not like it's a new regime. I think it's got to be Georgia. I would say Penn State would be right underneath it because of what was at stake during that game and you know, to get you to a national championship and all of those kinds of things. So I think it's got to be those two, right?
Definitely. Like that. It's what it feels like to me. Georgia was the first one that came to mind because it was obviously a big win over a team that's won a national championship. But like, if you put yourself in Marcus Freeman's shoes and you think about the Penn State pregame, you know, like the press conference, was it the day before, whenever it was?
Yeah, it was a couple days before.
James Franklin, you know, trying his little brother stuff and, you know, all that. And Marcus Freeman just kind of nodding and holding it in. And then all the things that you hear that he said to the team and all that kind of stuff. I think there had to be a pretty high level of satisfaction.
It's a personal satisfaction.
Beating James Franklin in that game.
Yeah. I don't disagree with that. I think
program satisfaction,
yes.
Georgia's probably it.
Yeah.
If we're just more Marcus Freeman specific, there had to be a very high level of satisfaction for Marcus Freeman to beat James Franklin. Yeah, with the hairline comment and everything.
Yeah. There are very few things that I'm very sure about when it comes to Notre Dame football. And I am very, very sure that there is no love lost between James Franklin and Marcus Freeman. I will say that.
No Christmas cards between the two.
No. And, one's gainfully employed and one's not. So
that's right.
I guess someone's getting the last laugh there, at least for right now.
One's been speculated to take the other one's job for that matter. So
I mean, even though it would be a step down, yeah, it's kind of crazy.
For Freeman, you mean?
Correct. Yes. Yeah. Yes.
All right. So I think we're in the same ballpark. You say Georgia, I say Penn State. Either way, I don't think you can go wrong winning both of those games. Obviously, Penn State sent you to a national championship game as well. So
yeah.
All right. We're going to kind of keep this moving a little bit. There's some questions that came in for the mailbag yesterday that we didn't quite get to, and I wanted to get to some of them here today. Balpine Shillelagh submitted this one. What aspect of the bye week do you think isn't being talked about enough in terms of how it will impact the success of the team, the rest of the season, and the playoffs?
I would say red zone offense, self-scouting, I think is a big one because, obviously the red zone has not been kind to Notre Dame from an offensive standpoint. Just, they have not been as efficient as they would want to be. They haven't been as efficient as we would want them to be, as fans and things like that. So I think giving Mike Denbrock some extra time to kind of sit back, do some self-scouting about what the red zone offense really looks like and what they want to accomplish, I think that's going to pay the biggest dividends moving forward, not only in the rest of the regular season, but more specifically if they're lucky enough, to get into the postseason, into the playoff, I should say. I think that will pay off big time.
I think so as well. And I was kind of trying to think because the question is posed, what isn't being talked about enough? And like yesterday, we talked about bye week, what's your mission and stuff like that. And we talked about like Andre in the YouTube chat is saying physical and mental recovery, like we get healthy. I think that's always the top thing.
Oh yeah.
When you get into a bye week, especially when you do have some guys dinged up and you can give them an extra week off and some extra days off from practice that they don't have to worry about, whether it's the kicker or the nickel or whoever it happens to be. So I think that's always going to be important. The one, I kind of tried to think, like dial this down, sort of, this is sort of an, like it's asking what's an under the radar kind of thing, basically. Jaden Greathouse is my response to this because we're still, obviously he's missed the last few games and, with that quad. So like he plays into that health aspect. So you get him back and maybe you figure out a way to make him more of a factor in the offense. You don't want to force it, definitely, but like he's another dynamic part of this offense that's, that can help take this offense to yet another level. So I think that Jaden Greathouse is kind of that for me.
I like that. Yeah. I don't think he's getting enough talking points as well because he's just hasn't been a part of the offense really all season. So that's a really good one. Touche to you, sir.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
Ring that bell for you.
Did my best. Went out, like I said, I went off the radar as far as I could.
Yeah, no, that's good.
But I agree with what you're saying with the red zone offense as well. That obviously has to be figured out. You've got to figure out, is it personnel? Is it just the way we're doing it? I think that there's a little bit of both. We've talked over the last couple of days. There's some different things I think they can do with personnel. I'm just not a fan. This goes all the way back to Tommy Rees when he was here. Not a fan of just bringing more tight ends on the field and saying, okay, let's pack everybody into the box now. And this is how we're going to blow you off the line. That's not working. They've got to figure out a way. Like it feels to me like you can, if you spread it out more, that opens things up. If you know, even if you still want to run between the tackles, but it cleans out the box a little bit and gives you an easier time, you know, an easier way to accomplish that, I think. So I think a lot of it is personnel / formation related in what they're doing, like things that they can do better to accomplish that.
Yeah, I talked to a source last night, and they basically said, like, this is a work week. Like, yes, it's a bye. Because I said, you enjoying the bye week, and they're like, yeah, well, we're trying to convince everybody that this is a work week. He goes, we're about 50% successful with that. But yeah, well, like, we're going to work on what we need to do and things like that. So I think you can expect to see more of the good, and then an enhanced look at what they haven't been doing well and some changes moving forward. I really do think you're going to see some differences coming out of the bye week. I think this is a big bye week for Notre Dame because they've got a lot. They got a lot under their belt already that they can actually go back and look at, as opposed to the first bye week where it was one game. Yeah. So I think you're going to see some significant changes for the better, coming out of this bye week.
I would agree with that. Darvis asks, CJ Carr, after the bye week's play, will return to what we've seen to the start of the season, the accuracy, etc.
Well, I think this is a little bit of a double-edged kind of an answer, because do I think he's going to look a heck of a lot better? Yes, but they're also going to be playing teams that aren't that great, or aren't as good, I should say. Mm-hmm. And so, those two things combined, like, I do think CJ Carr is the kind of kid who's going to go back into the film room and he's going to dissect and he's going to analyze. And he's going to do all of those things because that's just who he is, right? Football family, blah, 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 blah. All of it's accurate. But then he's also going to be going up against defenses that aren't as good. And I just feel like those two things combined, you're going to see a much more efficient CJ Carr down the stretch and into the playoff.
Absolutely. And look, he played lights out against NC State. I mean, he had almost 300 yards by halftime against NC State. The Boise State game before that and the USC game after that, I feel like those two defensive coordinators and those two defenses, they challenge CJ Carr in a way that he hasn't been challenged by most of the other teams this season, with specific pressures and different things that he was doing. And I think the performance against USC, maybe he was a little bit too much in his head, like thinking about what he thought Danton Lynn, USC's defensive coordinator, was going to do, and it wasn't necessarily always there. And I think that maybe that kind of caused some of that performance that CJ Carr had, was just because, like, when you watch them on film and some of the things that they have done with zone blitzes and different pressures and different things like that, he saw some of that, but there were other times where I think he had more time than maybe he thought, that he had or that he was going to have. And that caused maybe some of that clock to be sped up a little bit. So the answer is yes. I definitely expect him to return to play at a different level, because I just don't think he's going to see the quality of what he saw, in terms of the pressures and stuff like that. Maybe Pittsburgh a little bit, just because you've got Narduzzi and, defensive coach and that kind of stuff. But I think that by and large, he's going to look really good here over these last 5 games.
Yep, agreed.
All right, so that's kind of a quick opening segment, but we've got full breaks, and we've got the interview with Fighting Irish women's basketball coach Niele Ivey coming up next. We'll have the interview with Niele Ivey, and then after that, at the end of this first hour, we've got more Notre Dame conversation, and of course, in hour 2, the 6 o'clock hour, rapid fire, we've got a ton of Notre Dame conversation and some other stuff as well. So we're going to pause for some Notre Dame women's basketball with Niele Ivey coming up next, and then plenty more football talk coming up on the show with Vince D'Addario, Sean Stiers, Niele Ivey coming up next. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. Budweiser's weekday sports beat with IrishBreakdown.com continues. Sean Steyer's with you. Vince D'Addario will be back in a little bit. We've got more Notre Dame football talk coming up, and, of course, rapid fire with tons of topics in hour number 2, the 6 o'clock hour of the show tonight. Notre Dame women's basketball gets things going. They are practicing right now. Busy day for Fighting Irish head coach Niele Ivey. Of course, Sports Radio 960 AM, 106.1 FM, the home for Notre Dame women's basketball and the Notre Dame radio network here in South Bend. And you can hear all those games on the Odyssey app as well. But I talked with Niele Ivey just a little bit ago today, just as her team was wrapping up practice. And we'll hear some of her thoughts right now as she and her team get ready to start off another season. We are joined by the one and only head coach of the Notre Dame women's basketball team, Niele Ivey. Coach, how are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing good. Good to see you as always. We're going to be seeing more of each other here coming up pretty soon, of course, because the exhibition game for you is next Thursday, 1 week from today, as we speak, October 30th against Purdue Northwest, and then you'll fire up the regular season November 5th when Fairleigh Dickinson comes to town. This is, of course, season number 6 for you coming up here as head coach at your alma mater. What gets you most excited getting ready for a season?
Honestly, just again, I've had so much gratitude for being in this position. No matter if it's my first year or 6 years, I just love this place and I love this group, this program. It means so much to me. So just coming into work, seeing the Golden Dome, coming into this facility, either this arena or our practice facility, seeing all the Final Fours, it's so much motivation and inspiration that comes from being a part of this program. And I just love stepping on this campus.
If you could go back to year one before you ever coached a game, what advice would you give yourself to year one? No, clean slate, Niele Ivey, I guess.
I would say give yourself grace. There's a lot of learning, especially year one. It was in the pandemic. Just continue with knowing who you are, but give yourself grace as you're navigating a completely new space is what I probably would tell that person five years ago.
Man, amazing. And so when you look at now with all this experience that you've got as a head coach now through 5 years, do you think you're more different as a coach, or is just kind of the landscape of the game more different right now?
I think it's both. I think I've adjusted to the different makeups of the team, and just learning again, like having 5 years under my belt. I've learned a lot from experiences, either in-game experiences, teaching, bringing new ideas in, and just growing as a coach, confidence growing. Every part of my coaching personality has really grown. And then just, I think the landscape has changed everything, from the pandemic to the NIL to transfer portal. So knowing that it's a different generation. I've gone through a whole class, a class of 4 that has been with me from the beginning, and so kind of adjusting to the new era of talent. Talent is different, and the landscape is different. So I feel like I've learned a lot from those experiences.
You talked about that in-game coaching, and I mean, do you think it maybe kind of gets taken for granted? Because I mean, obviously you come up, you're a player, you know the game, you're sitting on the bench as an assistant coach, and you're in the game. But how different is it when you're actually the one wearing the crown and you've got to actually make those decisions, as they come rapid fire over the course of a game?
Absolutely. They say that couple inches is so massive as far as, like you said, just being the decision maker, having all the power, in making the biggest decisions that affect the games. So yeah, I was watched in admiration to Coach McGraw in the way that she handled everything that came along her way.
Sure.
But with games, with the things that she had to deal with off the court, and knowing that it's almost like 80% everything else and 20% basketball. I learned that as well. But that seat is hot. This head coaching chair is definitely hot. So
sure.
I think just the adjustment of knowing that you have, like you mentioned, having the crown. There's so many people that are relying on you to make the right decision. And, that's just, a weight to carry. But, I'm blessed and grateful to carry it.
I filled out my preseason All ACC ballot a couple of weeks ago, and shocker, spoiler alert, Hannah Hidalgo was at the top of my ballot, but okay. I was really kind of struck by just the turnover across the conference from last year to this. And I don't know, like how much you've really looked at it so far. Is this maybe the most turnover from one season to the next that you can remember?
Absolutely. I mean, there's so many new faces. There is in the ACC, so there's definitely a lot of new faces. There was a lot of movement, and rosters have changed a lot. So it definitely feels like kind of a brand new ACC.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's going to be incredible because I think there's still a lot of parity within our league, but definitely a lot of change that's happened in the offseason.
Well, and obviously Hannah Hidalgo is still here on your team, back for her junior season now at Notre Dame, the reigning ACC Player of the Year. But of course, a lot different looking team around Hannah for you compared to last year, compared to some turnover. So for her specifically, how does that maybe change what you need / expect from Hannah going into year 3 here?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really excited for her. She's come off a really incredible summer. She's worked really hard. Had a chance to play for USA Basketball, the Merit Cup, and won the gold. And that was a great experience for her. She's done so well with USA Basketball. She's carried all those experiences with her. She's a lot stronger as far as in her entire game. But just knowing that she has that maturity level this year, leading us, I think leadership is like the biggest thing that people are going to recognize. When you have 2 years under your belt, she's been in the fire for the last 2 years, and now coming, like you mentioned, preseason All-American, preseason Player of the Year. She has all these expectations and accolades that come along with who she is. And I think the maturity part is what I've been really impressed by, and her leading, her leadership with this team. And like you mentioned, we have almost like a brand new team. We have that core of KK Bransford coming back from injury and Kassan Prosper. But I've added a lot of new faces that can help the entire team and help Hannah. So look, I've been excited about our new additions, but really impressed with the way that Hannah's really led this offseason and preseason.
Well, if you picked one thing, and maybe it's what you just talked about a little bit there, but so many great things about her game. If you could pick one thing, is there one thing you think that makes her so special?
I think her competitiveness. When she steps on the court, she has no fear. It does not matter who she's playing. It doesn't matter what the stakes are, the stage. She just has this fire and competitiveness. She has an incredible high level of confidence. She plays at an elite level every time she steps on the floor. So if it's practice, she's always going to give you her, more than 100%. And, when she steps on the court, it's just like, it's us against the world. And I love that. She plays with a chip on her shoulder, but I just love her competitiveness and her confidence and how she shows up the same way every day.
You touched on that group of transfers that you brought in from the transfer portal, and there were 6 new players in all that you brought in. And we'll talk about KK and Kassan here in just a minute as well. But when you look at that, when you were looking for players from the portal, besides just, the obvious stuff on court, what they brought to the game, whether they were forward or guard or shooting or whatever, were there maybe some particular things that you were really looking for in the kind of player that you were going to bring in here?
Yeah, I mean, I knew I needed some depth in the forward position. So I thought Gisela and Malaya could kind of fulfill the spaces that we needed. And then Vanessa, another great ball handler, 3-level scorer. I loved her experience. I felt like playing against her in the ACC, very solid, very steady, and she's proved me right. She is a hard worker. She's so competitive, so smart, incredible high IQ. One of the hardest workers on our team. She's been an incredible addition, and I knew I wanted somebody that can help. Sometimes she might run the point, or she can be the 2 guard and have Hannah off the ball. I thought she would be a great addition with that. And then bringing in, Kelly Radigan, somebody that's culture kid, somebody from Notre Dame, somebody that's a 3-level scorer I've watched in high school here. So I thought that was an incredible addition. And then bringing in a sharpshooter like Ayanna Moore. She's, shooting over 35%, 36% from the 3, having somebody that can stretch the floor. And also with her experience being in the SEC, I thought all the pieces fit. And culture-wise, amazing. They stepped on campus. I'm like, oh my gosh, it was just a perfect fit in all aspects. And I'm looking for more than just talent. I'm looking for character. And I felt like they all checked the boxes with that.
Have any of them surprised you to the extent of like, well, I knew she could do this, but man, it turns out she can also do this, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think Giselle is one for me. She's she's playing a different position for us a little bit. She's playing a little bit she's playing the 5 a little bit. Sometimes she's playing the 4, and she's just growing her game, and she could be the 3. And I've seen her just get better every practice, and it's been awesome to see her development. With pace and just learning the system, and just having that Euro flair that she has. She's got a great 3-point shot. She's had a really great preseason, I guess you can say, and practice. So I've been very impressed by her.
Well, and she's one of those front court players. Obviously, she and Malaya Coles, and of course, Leah Macy's still trying to come back from that injury that she had in high school. So how do you kind of approach that front court? Because that is obviously, from the numbers standpoint, that's where it's a little bit thinner going into the season.
Yeah, I mean, just for her is just, I'm honestly having a lot of versatility, even with Cass. Cass and KK have helped out, having a little bit of versatility with that. Just trying to stay healthy, to be honest. And everyone is just playing whatever role they need to play.
Sure.
We want to win, and we want to get better every day. And I've been putting, most of our team in different positions, and knowing that our offense is very fluid. So it's positionless. There's a lot of times we could be at the pinch elbow, or they could be on the perimeter, and just making them comfortable in different positions is what we're doing. And they've been doing really well with adjusting to the different style of play.
Well, and I mean, Cass is obviously, she's technically a guard. She's listed as a guard, but she's also 6'3". And so
Yes.
like when you look at her, is she someone who could literally play, like any position for you maybe this year?
Honestly, she really is. And we've really worked on that. Also KK, just having that versatility, reminds me a little bit with Jackie Young. Back in the day when Jackie played multiple positions, Jackie could play, she could play the 1 all the way through the 4. So feel the same way with Cass and KK, playing multiple positions and just being comfortable being in different spots within our offense.
What do you think you've learned? You've been practicing for a few weeks now. What do you think you've learned the most about your team in that time?
I've learned a lot, and it's been great because I feel like every day is something new, because, I'm still learning, at the last several weeks is learning new things about our team, but very consistent with the way they work. I think that's number one for me. They come in every day with that hunger and the desire to get better every day. Their pace and their effort has been fantastic. So that what I've learned is like they are business first. They want to get better every day, and they've really shown me just a different level of effort, and it's been really exciting to be around.
I mean, conditioning, running the floor, those things are always big for Niele Ivey teams. Yeah. Like, does this team, kind of need to have those track legs even a little bit more this year?
Absolutely. Defensively, we're trying to be scrappy, try to impact the ball, be disruptive, but offensively, they're really just trying to push pace as much as we can. There are times when, Cass and KK, being on the floor at the same time with their athleticism, with their size, and again, being positionless, just trying to really put pressure on the offense, either off the bounce or, kick aheads in transition. And then defensively, just trying to be very disruptive.
And mentioned Leah Macy, and obviously, again, knee injury last year. It's been maybe 8-ish months, I guess, at this point. And I talked to her a few weeks back, kind of right around the time that school was starting. It sounds like her recovery is going well.
Mm-hmm.
Are you kind of in that middle ground wait and see in terms of what might actually happen this year?
A little bit. I kind of rely on, Leah, her comfort level, and our performance team. So she's doing a great job. But again, she had her injury and had surgery in the middle of February.
Yeah.
And, I've come off of 2 ACLs. So I look at more long-term for her. And, she's just kind of doing exactly what she needs to do. She's progressing really well. So just kind of playing it by ear for her. But again, she's not, she's a couple months from even surgery. Her surgery was in February. So, yeah. But I'm just proud of the way that she's working. I know it's hard, being on the side. She's had many gains and has had incredible strides in the last couple months, and just wanting her to focus on having confidence and focus on, getting healthy.
What do you think? You mentioned KK Bransford a couple times. What do you think is going to be the biggest difference we see in KK after she missed all of last year?
Yeah, I mean, the experience, she has a very high IQ. So she's had a chance to play with some of our best teams and been a part of the ACC championship that we brought home. And so she knows what to expect. And I think, consistency for her role is going to be massive. And just being able to utilize her experience. She's in incredible shape. She's confident. She's really worked on her game. And I'm just excited for her. Sitting out is always really hard. And I know she has that hunger to be back on the floor. She's done a great job of leading. She's been phenomenal. Just, again, somebody that has been in my system for multiple years and knows the culture, the history and tradition of Notre Dame. And she's just been a prime example of that.
I've been putting together, some of my information, some of the teams you're going to play in early November and that kind of stuff. Akron is an interesting one for a couple of different reasons. Not only do you have KK's sister,
yes,
Kaylee, on that roster, but there is also a player named Kieran McGuff, who, of course, for anyone who's been paying, you might have to go back a little bit, but Kieran McGuff, of course, is the daughter of Kevin and Letitia McGuff, who were both on staff at different points in your playing career.
Yes,
back in the day. That's got to be fun to see Kieran on that roster.
It is. Actually, Tish called me today, which is so funny.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Just really excited. Again, I was trying to have a special game, either bringing KK home to Cincinnati and, her sister, being a freshman at Akron. We thought this is a perfect opportunity for her family to be able to see both of their kids who are thriving and playing on the collegiate level, which is, I think, just amazing. So kind of amazing story. And then, the McGuff family, and I've known them since I was a player, like you mentioned, and Tish is one of my best friends. And, Kevin was somebody that coached me as a player. So having their daughter play against us back at, Tish's alma mater, it's just going to be a really fun kind of family environment. Her family has supported me throughout my playing career, my coaching career. So for her aunts and cousins and uncles and her family and her mom, I'm sure her dad won't be able to make it, but her mom is going to be able to make that game. It's going to be a super special moment.
Right. And of course, Kevin is the head coach at Ohio State.
Yes.
So he's probably going to have some other duties that night. Yeah, that's exactly right. Fans are going to have to kind of pay attention to who's wearing what uniform, though, because KK and Kaylee, I've seen Kaylee in the stands a few times. They look a lot alike. So.
They look a lot alike, making sure my team doesn't pass to her. So
that's right.
They're very similar. They almost look like twins.
That's right. I wanted to ask you before we wrap up, because these last couple weeks with all the Notre Dame USC football stuff going on and the talk about whether or not the rivalry might end and that kind of stuff. Of course, UConn is, one of your two biggest rivals, if not the biggest rival, in terms of women's basketball. It goes back to the Big East days, but you've been able to keep that rivalry going. Why is it so important for you to keep that Notre Dame UConn series going?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just important for women's basketball in general. I think when you think of big rivalries, especially in the last decade, the last 12 years, 15 years, it's been that Notre Dame UConn matchup in the Big East before we came over to the ACC. I just think it's important for the growth of the game. It's some of the best matchups that we've had in our history, and some of their All-Americans and our All-Americans. It's just been an incredible rivalry. It's been so dynamic in the way that those matchups have been. Obviously, two legendary coaches in Muffet McGraw and Gino, two of the most successful coaches in our game. So I just always wanted to honor that tradition. And luckily that, Gino feels the same way. Like I said, I just think it's great for the game. I think it's some of the highest ratings that we get is that game on television. So
for sure,
bringing in that support and eyes on women's basketball at the highest level, I think is really important to continue growing our game. Obviously, it's an extremely hard matchup, but no, I think it's best to help grow the game. And I know our both fan bases love it. Those games are always sold out, and it's super powerful. So I'm excited to continue that rivalry.
Has both sides, have they always been really committed to it? Has there ever been a time where you thought, it might go away for a little bit?
Well, since I've sat in this chair, it's been, we've both Notre Dame and UConn, we've both seen eye to eye as far as keeping that tradition and keeping that schedule, keeping that matchup going. And I think we just signed on a new contract for the next 3 years or 3 to 4 years. So we're just trying to always try to keep that matchup going. Again, I just think it's great to have that matchup and to have two of the most, powerhouses in women's basketball to continue competing against each other.
And just like in your last year at Notre Dame, the first championship season, 2001, this year's game is on MLK Day again this season. So that'll be fun. Of course, it'll be out there at stores, so that'll be a little different. So,
Yeah.
but always great to see Notre Dame and UConn, of course. All right. Well, again, exhibition opener for Notre Dame, the only exhibition game a week from today, October 30th, when the Fighting Irish host Purdue Northwest, and then the regular season opens November 5th against Fairleigh Dickinson. And of course, you hear all the games on the Notre Dame radio network. Niele Ivey, thanks as always, and I will see you soon.
Appreciate it. See you soon.
All right. That's Fighting Irish head coach Niele Ivey. We'll take a timeout, and when we return, Vince D'Addario will rejoin me. We've got a lot more Notre Dame football conversation to get to. That is coming up next. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. Budweiser's weekday sports beat with IrishBreakdown.com continues. Along with Vince D'Addario, Sean Stiers. Thanks again to Niele Ivey for spending some time talking a little Notre Dame women's basketball exhibition game next week. I tell you what, Vince, putting that up, we recorded that obviously, video and played it, during that last segment. My biggest takeaway watching, I touch my face too much. What? I'm always always itching my face. I've never noticed this before.
That's hilarious. That is fantastic. I was just sitting here. I was kind of like staring off into space, but I was listening to the interview. So I didn't notice the apparently nervous tick that you have.
All my facial ticks, I just itches.
Now I'm going to pay attention.
Allergies or what? But it's like forehead, big forehead, nose, itching all the time. Oh, we've got some questions. We answered a few of them a little bit ago, and a few more that I've got from listeners. It's Sfertone or Sfertone. I don't know how exactly you say it, but he says his only real question is, how is Vince? You're always in his prayers, he says, Vince. Do you want to give everyone an update on your health?
I mean, obviously, I will take all the love I can get. I mean, goodness gracious, that's awesome. I feel great. I'm like 100%.
Good.
So I'm feeling awesome. So yeah, I'm good to go. I got another one coming up here in a few weeks, but I'm not worried about that one. So we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. That's not going to be until middle of December. So
all right,
we're good to go for a while, man.
Good to know. Yeah. So yeah. Vince will be out for a little bit. December is going to be an interesting month between that and Christmas and everything else.
I know
that's going on, the holidays.
Hopefully some playoff football.
Yeah, hopefully so. It'd be nice if we have more December football. Speaking of which, Michael Cannon in the YouTube chat asks, what would it mean for Notre Dame football if Indiana won a national championship before Notre Dame, considering how bad Indiana has been in football since their existence?
Well, it wouldn't mean anything for Notre Dame football per se. I mean, maybe it's not a great look, I guess, but this is a new world of college football with NIL and the transfer portal. I mean, it really doesn't matter the logo on the side of the helmet. You can make anybody a winner overnight if you do it right. You know what I mean? If you get the right coach in place, you got enough in the coffers to get some people to come over, and you have a convincing, pitch for the transfer portal, you can turn any team into a winner. And I will say that
Oregon was a doormat when I was growing up,
at some point that's going to happen. There's going to be a team that has been a perennial doormat that wins the national championship because of the way that Indiana is doing their thing. And I'm not bashing Indiana, by the way, for the way that they're doing it. They're well within the rules and they're doing what they're allowed to do. It's just, you can have a quicker turnaround nowadays because of all the new rules.
I think we talked about this yesterday. Clemson and Georgia, another couple of examples. Now, Georgia is obviously a team that, both of those programs had won national championships previously, but you had to go back a long time. And essentially for about 30 years, both of those programs were just kind of in their conferences. And then Dabo Swinney and Kirby Smart took over. You get the right guy, and the right amount of investment and everything else in place, you can win a lot of football games. So, I don't think it necessarily means anything specific for Notre Dame. Obviously, they happen to be in the same state, but
sure, the
way they go about things is different because you've got a state school and a national private school.
Yeah, 100%. Michael goes on in the chat to talk about how you don't want to fall behind other Midwest schools with Michigan and Ohio State, obviously already winning a national championship. I think the Michigan national championship still has a pretty giant asterisk next to it. But to your point,
don't tell them that.
I know. To your point, though, and you also mentioned, Penn State and IU. Penn State doesn't even have a head coach right now, so I wouldn't exactly say that they're on the verge of winning a national title anytime soon. But you're right.
I mean, honestly, I think it's worse for a program like Penn State in the same conference because especially of what Penn State obviously considers itself every bit a national player. I think the fact that you fired James Franklin when you did, and you hear their fans talk about their program and everything else, they obviously consider that an upper echelon job at an upper echelon program. I think it's a bigger knock on Penn State being in the same conference as Indiana, much bigger than it is for Notre Dame.
And again, I want to throw this comment up here from Michael. He says, I get that you can have a quicker turnaround, but shouldn't Notre Dame have a quicker turnaround than IU? They're doing it completely differently. That's the thing. Notre Dame does it through high school recruiting, and then they fill the gaps with, transfers, right? They get a handful of transfers every year. IU's entire roster has turned over, and their recruiting classes are nowhere near Notre Dame's. So they're doing it differently. And so you can have a quicker turnaround at IU than you can at Notre Dame because they build it up differently. And frankly, call me old school, but I like the way Notre Dame does it better because of the way that they recruit and the way they build their program from the ground up. And it's more sustainable that way, in my opinion. Now, we'll see if IU can sustain it. Maybe they can with the turnover that they have. But it's not going to be as quick of a turnaround because of the way they do it.
Yeah, and now, look, this is also a big if as of right now because you're saying if Indiana wins a national championship.
That's a big if,
before Notre Dame. Yeah, that's a very big.
They haven't even won a playoff game yet.
Exactly. They played one playoff game. Notre Dame won 3 playoff games last year and went to the national championship game. So Notre Dame still ahead of Notre Dame. But I get the sentiment of what he's saying. It's like, it's kind of like as a Chicago Cubs fan for you. Now, obviously they won the World Series in 2016, but prior to that, watching the Florida Marlins, now the Miami Marlins, but when they won 2 championships in a 6-year stretch.
Yeah.
I think 97 and 2003. That had to be pretty tough as a Chicago Cubs fan and even a Boston Red Sox fan back at that point. Like fans of both of those long-suffering fan bases, traditional, old, like from the start of baseball, type organizations, to see an up-and-comer like the Florida Marlins basically, twirl together 2 different teams 6 years apart and watching them win World Series. Like that's kind of the equivalent of this.
Well, those
what we're talking about.
Yeah, because those were 2 completely different teams. You know what I mean? Like they went through free agency and it was very similar. It was like the transfer portal and NIL. Like that's basically what the Florida Marlins were. And then, the lowly Cubs can't even, win their division. It was a very rough time to be a Cubs fan. And then a few years after that, they had to watch the White Sox win the World Series.
Yeah, so as Werewolf says, what about when the White Sox?
Yeah, there you go.
Did that affect the Cubs? I mean, it didn't necessarily kick them into gear because the Cubs still plummeted even farther south before they built that thing back up. Because you're talking about 2005 for the White Sox and then 2016 before the Cubs finally won something. So yeah,
it affected me. I can tell you that. That was miserable watching the White Sox win.
Man, weren't there like so many more White Sox fans than you had ever seen in your life after that? And you don't hear from them quite as much anymore.
Look, I was 24 years old when they won, right? So I was a little more surly back then than I am now. I got into a lot of verbal spats with people that were rooting for the White Sox who were claimed to be Cubs fans. It's a Chicago team. You got to no, you don't have to root for them. What are you talking about? Yeah. They're one of your biggest rivals.
Come on, John Cusack. You can't do that. Like you remember that whole deal when the White Sox basically told Cusack, you didn't like us when we were at our worst. We don't need you jumping on the bandwagon now.
Did they really? That's awesome.
Yeah.
Shame on you, John Cusack, then. Because just stay true to your people, man. It's okay. Stay true.
Got more Notre Dame football coming up in hour number 2. Rapid Fire is on the way. We'll talk a little Notre Dame, Michigan. We'll talk some CJ Carr and more. It's coming up. Rapid Fire, Budweiser's weekday sports beat with IrishBreakdown.com. It is hour number 2 of the show, and it can mean only one thing. Vince, are you ready for some rapid fire?
It's rock and roll. Last one of the week, baby.
That's right. That's right. Again, a reminder, no show tomorrow because there's Notre Dame men's basketball going on. The pregame show will start at 5:30 when the Fighting Irish host DePaul in their final exhibition.
Yes.
So, Vince, ESPN has a mid-season college football awards list. They rank their top 10 offensive and defensive players here at the midseason. Leonard Moore checks in at number 8 on their defensive players list, but there are no Notre Dame players on their offensive top 10. Fair or foul?
Are you kidding me? It's hugely foul. How do you not have Jeremiyah Love on that list? I mean, his all-purpose yards, I think, are cresting right around 1,000. I mean, and there's still 5 games to go or whatever it is. So, like, this is ridiculous that he's not even on the list anywhere. Leonard Moore absolutely belongs on the defensive list. Now, it's funny because when I first read this question, I was like, yeah, that sounds about right. You know, I don't know that anybody's really impressed. Vince, come on now. Jeremiyah Love, what are you doing? So, yeah, it's completely foul. How is he not on this list?
I will say, in fairness, they did put this out before the USC game last week.
A bit of a coming out party. I
So
give you that.
maybe that performance in primetime might have sprung him in there. He's really kind of not getting, pardon the pun, the love. Like second team All-American. They did do this thing. It is the what they call it, the Pony Express mid-season list today that both he and Jadorian Price are on together. It is like the duos. I think it goes back to like Craig James and Eric Dickerson, when they were called the Pony Express at SMU. They are on that mid-season list, which I think is an interesting one. You got to have Jeremiyah Love in your
right.
I realize it's the top 10 players in all of college football, but Leonard Moore very deserving to be in there at number 8. I think Jeremiyah Love deserves to be on that midseason list as well. Robin says never believe an ESPN list. Well, there's something to talk about.
100%.
if nothing else. Right?
Absolutely.
Never believe in Notre Dame or an ESPN list until they have a Notre Dame player on.
Correct.
There, right?
Yes. Yes.
Everybody's like, well, see, I usually don't like ESPN, but here we are.
Yeah. Look, I get why some people don't like ESPN. It still has a lot of redeeming qualities to it. Just this particular list, it's not good. That's all.
Darvis had a question for us for the mailbag that I thought we would drop in here. I think it is pertinent to hear. Do you buy or sell Jeremiyah Love being in New York for the Heisman Trophy ceremony this year?
Well, he is not getting a lot of love right now from the Heisman Trophy, like media or whatever. Like it just doesn't feel like he's getting a lot. But I do think at the end of the day, look, Notre Dame is going to be on the precipice of a college football playoff berth. I think he's good. Jeremiyah Love is still going to continue to rack up some yards and all of the things. So I do think he has a good opportunity to be in New York. I'm hoping that Notre Dame starts to amp up the Heisman love here for him and that they start pushing this thing a little bit more. Because as of right now, they haven't pushed him at all.
That's true.
So I'm hoping they start to push him a little bit more.
Could they start nudging it? I think like the performance that he had, man, just beating everything up here, beat my microphone up. The performance he had against USC last week, that could be a launching off point. Now he's not going to probably have any more primetime games. And obviously the level of competition that he's going to play is going to be different. But if you see like like those kind of big moments, those big breakaway plays and stuff like that, like we saw for Jeremiyah Love against USC, I think that helps him. What does not help him is, what's being brought up here in the YouTube chat, not a quarterback. And that obviously hurts. Like Ashton Genty, as great a season as he had last year, he couldn't even crack it in terms of winning it. Obviously, it takes a lot for a running back to get in there, but I think that the kind of performance, you don't have to get 200 yards every time. Jeremiyah Love starts with a few highlights, some breakaway plays, looking looking very dynamic, not just trying to hurdle guys to get out of the backfield, but has more of those long highlight type runs. I think he could find himself at least in the conversation. I think it's going to be really tough for him, though, to get to New York when it's all said and done. Now, all that said, there's also, here we are almost at the end of October, and there is no real clear front runner type guy for the Heisman Trophy right now.
I do agree with that because there's a lot of split decisions out there, and there's a lot of guys kind of playing up and down. You know what I mean? And there's some popular picks there. You know, the kid from Alabama. You've got Pavia from Vanderbilt. You know, but there's really not a lot of names at the top of the list. So I think it's anybody's game right now, to be perfectly honest with you. And I think that can benefit Jeremiyah Love right now.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about Indiana earlier, and when the Indiana quarterback is one of the top guys being talked about for Heisman right now, you know, college football is a little different in 2025 compared to 2023 or any time before. Fill in the blank. CJ Carr's performance this season has been blank compared to the expectations you had for him coming into the year.
I would say that they're right about on par with what I was expecting. You know, we knew that he's a student of the game. We knew that he had some ability. And then we also knew he was going to kind of be up and down. You know what I mean? Like, if he hadn't had some of the downs that he's had thus far, I would have been like, he's overplaying where I thought he would have been. I think he's kind of come down to earth just a little bit over, you know, with the last game and things like that. So I think he's right about where I thought he should be. What do you think?
I think he's a little bit ahead of what I thought he would be. Like, I don't think that – have there been learning moments? Yeah. You know, just, you know, the biggest one being last week. You can't throw that ball in the end zone. You've got to throw it away. Like, that's a learning moment. But I think that he's played above what he thought. There haven't been, you know, like, other than that, there haven't been, like, these huge game-changing type mistakes, you know, knock on wood. Like, he has looked every bit like a veteran quarterback. He hasn't looked like a freshman quarterback at all. So I thought that he would be good, but I do think that he's even better than I thought he would be. Like, consistently play after play. There, you know, like, how many times with some of these other quarterbacks just within the last 8 or so years, it's like, just throw the ball or just throw it away. You know, like, I don't find myself, you know, like, I don't know, like, I'm not liquored up during games either, you know, like a lot of fans. So, like, are you, as a fan, are you yelling at your TV more or less with CJ Carr compared to some other quarterbacks in recent memory who've worn a gold helmet? Like, that's
so much.
That's less. What I would be asking, because it feels there's just far less frustration type plays that you see from this guy than so many other quarterbacks, especially for a young quarterback.
Oh, could not agree more. I'm not yelling at my TV like I used to. I mean, I'm just not. Or in the press box, I'm not punching you in the arm or anything like that. You know what I mean? Like, you used to see me get so frustrated watching quarterbacks run out of bounds, you know, on taking sacks and things. It's like, he's not doing that. He did it one time. He'll never do it again, you know?
Right. Exactly. Now, I've got to find this next cut because I've got a cut that we're going to play here. Ooh, here it is. This went more smoothly than I thought it was going to go. We're going to play a cut for this next question. And this one is from Marcus Freeman. He was recently asked how CJ Carr and Riley Leonard compare as competitors. And here is what Marcus Freeman said about that.
I would. There's some similarities, but there are also some different. They're different people. Both have a burning desire to win. They both hate losing. Both have a unique ability to make those around them better. Skill sets might be a little bit different, but their makeup, there's a lot of similar traits. That's why they're both really successful.
All right, so there's Marcus Freeman on how the competitiveness of CJ Carr and Riley Leonard compare. How do you think Carr's competitiveness impacts him as of right now?
I think it makes him harder on himself than maybe he needs to be at times, but it also makes him a bit of a perfectionist. So I know he's going to go back and probably not make the same mistake twice. So I think that's all part of being a competitor. And so I think it's I'd rather have that in my quarterback than just like loosey-goosey, oh, well, it is what it is, like yes, you want him to forget the last play and things like that to a degree, but you also have to learn from your mistakes. And I do think he does a very good job of that. Again, maybe sometimes too hard on himself. But.
No, absolutely. But like as Johnny S3 is saying here in the YouTube chat, no more intentional grounding. So that's a plus. Like we haven't seen as much of that, like where you're talking about learning from mistakes. He's not just doing the same things over and over again. And again, when you go back to the way he plays, I think that shows he's a very fast learner, it seems like. But when you look at that competitiveness that he's got, I think that applies to that interception last week and the other one that he threw in the end zone, where like he wants, till the very bitter end, he wants to make a play and he's still trying to make a play. Sometimes that came into play with some of those intentional groundings as well. Cause it's like, I'm not just going to throw this out of bounds. I'm still going to try to make a play whereas, it's like the 10 cup thing, like lay up, live to play another play,
right?
That kind of thing. And I think that comes at like, so the competitiveness is great because it drives him and he is willing to learn. But at the same time, like that competitiveness, I think in the case last week of the interception got in his way a little bit because he wasn't just willing, to sail it out of bounds and take that. He was still trying to make a play to the bitter end. That's what you got to learn from now, I think.
Agreed. Yeah, no, 100%. And to your point, he generally doesn't make the same mistake twice.
Right.
And I think that's huge. That's massive. And he's going to make mistakes. It's just how do you learn from them? And it's very cliche, but he is kind of the embodiment of that. And I love that in a quarterback. And I'm very happy that he's not draft eligible.
Yeah, exactly.
Got
at least one more year of him.
He's going to have a whole offseason of knowing he's the starting quarterback at Notre Dame and how to, and again, I'm not throwing this season away. I'm just saying him specifically knowing he's going to be the starter and how much work he's going to put in the offseason. I'm very excited for next year as well, but it's about this year.
Yeah, but it's that competitive edge that separates the ones who are really great compared to just really good. Like look at Tom Brady,
absolutely,
Peyton Manning, like both of those guys, like ultimate competitors. When I asked Niele Ivey a little bit ago about what really separates Hannah Hidalgo, the first thing she said was competitiveness, and I think that you could apply that to a player like Niele Ivey back in her playing days, and to a coach like Muffet McGraw when she was coaching. Both of them, ultimate competitive. And I think that you can just go on down the line, and the ones who are just bitterly competitive, if I can talk a little bit, like they're the ones who ultimately, that's the cream that rises to the top. I think.
Yep. Agreed.
Marcus Freeman was on the Bussin' with the Boys podcast this week. One of the benefits of bye week is the head coach does some of the national interviews. So one of the hosts, Taylor Lewin, is it Lewin or Lewan? I think
it's Lewan. He's the Michigan guy, right?
Right. He played tackle for Michigan. He asked Marcus Freeman this question about maybe a little Notre Dame, Michigan in the future. And here's the question and answer from Marcus Freeman.
I was at Michigan every second or third game of the year. It'd be Notre Dame. And it was such a beautiful rivalry. And after I left, I don't know how many years since we have played, could we talk to the AD at Notre Dame? Do I have to go talk to Michigan? We got to get that rivalry back in check. It's such a beautiful helmet game. Same architect made both stadiums. Like it's almost a religious experience. Would you be for Michigan Notre Dame again?
Oh, huge proponent. Yeah, absolutely. Like I remember growing up watching Michigan play Notre Dame, right? And that is such a great rivalry. And you talk about two iconic programs. I would love to see that happen in the future. And I don't know if there's discussions. I don't know if it's on our future schedule. It might be. I think actually now that you said that, Taylor, like I think it is on our schedule in like 2030 or something like that. I always say about being alive then.
5 years.
Yeah. We have to get that back going.
All right. So point of clarification, 2033 and 2034 is Michigan comes back.
It was close.
Yeah,
you know.
it was in the ballpark.
Yeah.
He knew it was in the 2030s.
Yeah.
That raises another question altogether in 33 and in 34. But by the way, when Luan, he was starting to say Michigan, I thought he was going to say Mishawaka there for a second, just like the way he was saying, we got to get a hold of Misha. But Vince, Marcus Freeman is in on more Notre Dame, Michigan. Are you in on more Notre Dame, Michigan in the future?
I will first say that was not the voice I was anticipating from an offensive tackle. I will just throw that out there. But anyway,
when you see like when you look the photos of him in his playing days compared to now, he's one of these guys who
that just like slimmed way down,
lost all the weight. Yeah, like Joe Thomas and Mirko Jurkovic and those kind of guys. Yeah.
Yep. But anyway, to the question about Notre Dame, Michigan. Look, I like when Notre Dame plays Michigan. I just don't want it every single year. I want it to be, 2 years on, 2 years off, something along those lines. Let's put something else in that spot. I'm fine with them playing. I think they've taken too much time off. I'll be honest with you. It's annoying when they play because the fans are annoying and all of those kinds of things. Yes, but at the same time, it's a great rivalry. I'm here for it. It's great when they win. It's terrible when they lose. That's the name of a game when it comes to a rivalry. I want it back. I just don't want it every year.
I would agree with that. I think we've said before, like if you could rotate it like every 4 to 6 years or something like that, so that it's at least on a more regular basis. Like they said, man, great helmet game. Notre Dame, Michigan, it just brings back so many great rivalry memories. And to get them back on the schedule, I think would be good for both schools and Notre Dame as well. There's obviously some animosity. You and I were both there for the chicken dance game up there at the big house. And like that was just the Denard Robinson and the whole thing. And now you've got USC needling in on the other side with them, trying to back out. You've got the LA Times being a mouthpiece for the Southern Cal athletic director out there trying to bring up, how Notre Dame got out of the Michigan series and all that different kind of stuff. And it's like, look,
it's such a misdirection. Like, look over here. Don't pay attention to what we're trying to do.
Right. That's exactly right. Yep. That's exactly what it is. But I think it would be great for college football if they did it. And again, like we have to wait 8 more years. And by the time 8 more years rolls around, I think, what was it? Was it 2018, 2019? The last 2 games
it sounds right.
They played. That's like 14 years.
A long time
in between games. That is a very long time. So yeah, I would love to see more Notre Dame, Michigan, but I think part of that probably also depends on just so much of this other stuff, because the Big Ten is all these Big Ten schools. Now, I will give Michigan credit. Michigan and Ohio State are the 2 Big Ten schools who are actually going out and playing somebody.
Yeah, agreed.
In non-conference.
Agreed. They're not playing they don't have the schedule that Penn State has.
Right.
They don't have the schedule that USC wants to have. Right. To your point. Yeah, I agree. I'll give them credit for that.
Yeah. So hopefully we see more in the future. I think that would be a lot of fun for all of us. And, 2033, 2034, that's 8 years away. That would be year number 12 for Marcus Freeman. If you get to 2033. Yeah. That's exactly right. That's a ways away. I guarantee Sharon Moore won't be there by then.
I think that's an absolute guarantee. I think that's a fairly good call on your part, sir.
Let's take a break. When we come back, more rapid fire, more college football, and other topics coming up. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. Budweiser's weekday sports beat with irishbreakdown.com. Sean Stiers, Vince D'Addario. We continue with some rapid fire. I wanted to get this question in, or this comment from Josh talking about Michigan. He says, bring back Michigan State, rotate both every year. The year they play Michigan State, no Michigan. Year they play Michigan, no Michigan State. I mean,
I'd be cool with 2 and 2. You know what I mean? Like a little home and away, then another home and away, that kind of a deal. I'd be cool with that. Keep it even that way, at least from a home and away standpoint.
Yeah, I think so as well. And, listen, part of this whole deal, like everyone talks about the Michigan series with Notre Dame getting canceled. The Michigan State and the Purdue series used to be more annual than the Michigan series.
Yep.
And they all went away. And it's not just because Notre Dame joined the ACC. Again, this runs counter to what, that hit piece in the LA Times is trying to tell you right now. The Big Ten didn't always play a 9-game conference schedule. Like, it wasn't that long ago. They were only playing 8 games.
Right.
And as the Big Ten expanded, they added the 9th conference game. Go back and look at their schedules. They used to play 4 non-conference opponents, Notre Dame being one of them. But when they also, so when Notre Dame moved to the ACC, that was, kind of the tipping point. But then also the Big Ten added another conference game. And that's why all these series with, even if they weren't all completely annual, but obviously Michigan, Michigan State, and Purdue used to be much more regular on Notre Dame's schedule. But when Notre Dame did the ACC scheduling agreement, and this is the big and that people forget about, and when the Big Ten went from 8 to 9 conference games, that's when all of these long-running series had to take a back seat. So we've seen more of Purdue recently. Michigan State's going to pop up on the schedule next year. As we said, it's still going to be 8 years for Michigan. But yeah, I'd be for anything that gets them on the schedule, Michigan and Michigan State, more regularly going forward. But you also still have to have the kind of more marquee, not, like the Alabamas and Texas world and things like that, if you're Notre Dame, in addition to Michigan.
I would still be okay, honestly, if you added Purdue into that mix too and did like a 2-2-2 scenario. I would be okay with that if they decided to do it. You know what I mean? Because I liked having those 3 on the schedule, to be honest with you, in a rotational basis, or both. However they want to do it, I think getting them all back on the schedule would be
2 of them. Yeah. And Josh is asking, yes, they do. They play Michigan State next year.
Yep. Is it home or away? Do you know off the top of your head?
I think it's here next year.
Because I actually don't mind driving up to
East
Lansing. They got a nice setup there, big old press box.
They do have a very large press box. I will say that.
I believe they did the box lunch though, which that's a whatever.
They were you get your one hot dog before kickoff, and then you don't get anything again. It's like, please, can I have another?
I know, right?
Speaking of Michigan State, their basketball coach, Tom Izzo, is piping hot right now.
Yeah, he is.
He's mad that the NCAA has opened the door for 2 former G League players to play men's college basketball next year. One of them is committed to Louisville after 3 years playing in the G League, and the other is committed to Santa Clara. Is it fair or foul, Vince, to let these guys play in college after getting paid to play in the G League?
It's foul. I don't like it. I realize, there's a movie out there about a guy who's 58 years old and, is going back and playing college football. Like, I realize that exists, but that's not what's going on here. You know what I mean? It's these guys tried to play professionally. They tried to make it to the NBA. It didn't work out. And now college is their fallback. Like, I don't know. I just feel like you decided not to go to college to try to go make some money, and it didn't work out for you, and now you're going back. I don't like it. It's foul. I don't like it at all.
I agree. It's completely foul, because not only are they coming back, but it's the same sport. It's one thing when a guy like, you remember Winky, like when he went and tried to play professional baseball, and then he went to college and he played football quarterback at Florida State. There have been a couple guys like him who have done that kind of thing in different sports. It's one thing when you're switching sports and you're coming back, But what this is basically doing, if we're going to do this in basketball, so what about a guy who gets drafted out of high school playing baseball? He plays 3 or 4 years of minor league baseball. He washes out at single or double A. Does he get to come back to college and play baseball too now?
Yeah,
as a
apparently.
24 or 25-year-old? Like,
apparently, that's the exact same situation.
Right.
And honestly, what if a guy is 3 years removed from high school and somehow he gets drafted to the NFL and plays a few years, it doesn't work out, then does he get to go back to college?
Yeah. Get to switch and play college. Yeah,
it's professional. You're getting paid to do that sport, and now you get to go back and be an amateur.
Right.
In theory, I realize none of them are amateurs.
Well, see, and that's obviously because of NIL. That's why they're switching their stance on this whole thing, because players are getting paid now. But you're also, you've played in a professional league for 3 years. So not only have you played, you're also 3 years more physically advanced.
Yep.
Than some of these guys who are 17 and 18 years old coming out of high school. So there's a big difference. And I don't get letting them do this, because it's obviously going to open the floodgates for every guy who washed out giving this a shot in the G League. That was the choice that you made. And
exactly.
I don't like, because not only now are you coming back, what happens if he develops to an extent, where he's he plays 1 or 2 years and now he's going to go try himself in the draft again, or he's going to, pack up and he's going to go overseas and play professionally. Are you just going to turn this into basically professional basketball now? Where it's like, I play 3 years in the G League. I'm going to play 1 year at Louisville, and now I'm going to go to Italy and play professionally again. Where's
the line?
Where does any of it end?
Yeah. Where's the line? I just feel like these courts are just afraid to just draw a line, and they're just leaving it kind of wide open for the next guy to have to deal with, the next judge to have to deal with. It's cowardly.
I agree. NCAA has also approved a rule that's going to allow athletes and athletic department staff members to bet on professional sports. So you can be in college and you can't bet on other college sports, but you could bet on the NFL, Major League Baseball, NBA, hockey, whatever it happens to be. Do you buy or sell this move?
I buy it. They're betting on something that they have nothing to do with. I don't see why that's a big problem. I really don't, because betting is such a normal thing nowadays that I don't see it's not like Pete Rose, you're betting on what you're participating in. I would have a problem with Dylan betting on Hillsdale games. Right. You know what I mean? But if you want to bet on the Colts or the Bears, go for it. I don't see what the problem is, as long as you're being responsible, obviously, about it. He actually got an email about it today, from the compliance department saying, come November 1st, you guys can, partake. And so but they're like, not until then. And the penalty is you lose a year of eligibility. If you get caught. So you lose a full
if you
year.
do it before then, you're in trouble.
Yeah, don't do it. But so I thought that was interesting. But yeah, it's I'm fine with it. What do you think about it?
I was a little, kind of back and forth, but you are betting a level above you. You're not allowed to bet on anything at your level, basically, in college. So I'm good with it, because the biggest thing, like you're talking about, it's not like you're placing bets on something that you could even indirectly have an impact on or influence in whatever direction. So I'm good with it ish.
I get it.
Just because there's still, it just feels weird to just kind of blanket allowing college athletes to do this kind of thing. But Pandora's box has long been opened.
Oh, yeah.
With everything else that's out there now.
I mean, we literally have a betting show, where we talk about bets, what I mean? And I would have a major problem, like I said, if college kids are betting on college sports. That's a little bit different.
Right.
Yeah, if it's a different level, they don't have any sway in how that operates, you know what I mean? And if everybody else is doing it, why can't they do it,
Interesting story this week. We didn't get a chance to get to this yesterday. I wanted to bring it up. University of Tennessee baseball coach Tony Vitello has accepted the San Francisco Giants offer. He is now their new manager. He becomes the first person to go from college head baseball coach to managing a Major League Baseball team with no previous professional baseball experience. Do you buy or sell this move by the San Francisco Giants to hire Tony Vitello, Vince?
This feels like a publicity stunt to me. I realize he's a good college baseball coach. He's also got a very short fuse. And I don't know how that's going to go over in the professional level with 162 games as opposed to 40. You know what I mean? Like, that's a big difference, or however many games. Like, I just don't see this working out.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
There you go. I just don't see this working out, man. I really, really don't. I just, with no professional experience whatsoever, to make that jump. Yes, baseball is baseball. I get it. But I just don't think he's got the temperament for professional baseball.
That's what I have to question, because look, he won a lot of games, and he took Tennessee from nothing, took him to the College World Series 3 times, won a national championship with him a couple of years ago. But he is also probably one of the most despised coaches in college baseball, like at the very least in the SEC. But he is abrasive. He is in your face. He is known to argue virtually every ball and strike call, it seems like, if you've ever watched Tennessee, baseball on TV. And I agree with exactly what you're saying. I just, the guy would probably argue that he's looking at the sun and not at the moon if he was, if you were out there in the middle of the night and it was pitch black, like he would argue anything, it seems like. So I agree with you. Like the temperament, because like the intensity and all that kind of stuff, that can be a good thing
in college
when it's college and every game counts. And like you said, there's a big difference between 56 games in college and 162 in Major League Baseball when you're that intense. And so I just have to wonder like how that goes over both, like day after day, pitch after pitch, game after game. And you're also talking about guys who are not that much younger than you in some cases now, like that you're going to be like, he's at least in his 40s, I think, but still like there's just a lot different level of pitch to pitch, game to game intensity in Major League Baseball. Like not every pitch matters in Major League Baseball.
It's true.
Like I have to wonder how that's going to go over. So I've got to sell it.
It's going to be very, very interesting because if anybody watches college baseball and you watch Tennessee, those kids kind of adopted his personality a lot as well.
That's true.
And, it worked. Like I said, it worked. It worked for him and it worked for Tennessee and it worked for college. I'll be very interested to see if it actually works at the pros. I don't think it will.
Carlos says he gets the idea that I don't like him. Well, I mean,
I respect what he did.
I absolutely respect what he did, but like I've watched enough. Me. I used to watch even more college baseball, and I obviously watch when the College World Series is on. But the Tennessee is the team that Notre Dame knocked off to go to the College World Series in 2022, and the year before that is where in the super, like that is where Paul Maneri's LSU college, coaching career ended, was on that same field there in Knoxville. He's obviously since come out of retirement and gone to South Carolina. So, I wouldn't say that Tony Vitello is my favorite guy, but we'll see what happens. To each his own.
Hey, maybe he proves us wrong, and that would be great for him. I just think it's a bit of an uphill climb. That's all.
I do too. Buster Posey is in charge out there in San Francisco now. He was a college guy himself. He played at Florida State. I wonder, like if that played into his decision. It's like, oh, here's this great college coach. There's a big difference. But Pat Murphy was a more intense guy, I think, when he was in college as well. And like Murphy has done really well in his short amount of time with the Milwaukee Brewers. He's another guy who has made the transition. He didn't go straight from college to the Milwaukee Brewers, but he's done pretty well. But he also had some time to kind of sit in the dugout, be Craig Counsell's bench coach, and kind of sort of absorb how things operate, I think, a little bit more at the major league level. So
Let the experiment begin.
Yep. We'll take our final break and then back to wrap up Rapid Fire, Budweiser's weekday sports beat with IrishBreakdown.com. Just a few minutes left here. Budweiser's weekday sports beat with IrishBreakdown.com and Rapid Fire. Michael in the YouTube chat, speaking of college baseball, could this be Notre Dame's baseball coaches last year coaching the team if the things go the way they've been going? Well, he's had 3 years going into year 4 for Sean Stifler. I have to think this is a pretty make or break season. They flirted with the NCAA tournament bubble last year. That was as close as it got, was a flirtation.
Yeah.
Flat out. This is year 4. I think he's got to be in the tournament this year, personally.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's a high
Not
bar,
bubble,
but
not a bubble. You got to be
no,
in.
I agree. I think they need to be in as well, and they got to take care of business early. That I feel like the MO has been really rough starts, but maybe I'm misremembering. But I feel like it feels like they're digging themselves out of a hole.
Exactly. And, again, like they flirted, they were playing better down the stretch. They got in a little bit of a roll last year, but ultimately it just didn't pan out in the end. Bernie says, can anyone explain all these 5-minute breaks? Yes, we're on the radio. Bernie, that explains it.
Yep, that's it.
Come in. I don't make up the amount of breaks that we play or the length of the breaks that we play. Get here and there is inventory and it says 5 to 7. Here they are. You got to play them.
Got to play them all, baby.
That's what we do. That's what we do. All right. Well, again, no show tomorrow. We got a little bit of a long weekend, so enjoy your bye weekend. We'll, of course, be back next Monday. Marcus Freeman will hold his next press conference next Monday. So when we come back, we will have plenty of comments from him on Monday's show, and we will gear it right back up as we get ready for some Notre Dame football a week from Saturday when the Fighting Irish head out to Boston College.
Good luck to all the local football players. Tournament starts tomorrow night.
Yes, that's right. Sectionals.
That's right.
Go get it. Go get it. All right. Well, enjoy your long weekend. Enjoy your bye weekend. Don't get into too much trouble, anybody. Don't forget, Notre Dame men's basketball coming up tomorrow. Exhibition game against DePaul at Purcell. The pregame show starts at 5:30, and the tip-off is at 6 o'clock. Vince, enjoyed it as always. I will see you later, my friend.
See you Monday.
Talk to everybody else Monday as well. Budweiser's weekday sports beat with irishbreakdown.com. Enjoyed it. A quick, fast week, and we will talk to you next week right here, Sports Radio WSBT.